Like 45 minutes later, that one hotspot is now a larger hotspot. And whatever it hit caught on fire. So like 2 hours later, the entire tractor trailer is this massive inferno. And I was like, weapons effects achieved. Like, you got them.
Welcome to the Bro Chat.
Yeah, we don't figure out who has the intro. Vader, I love it when you do the intro. So, I mean, I get nothing.
Yeah,
It's been a while. I think you have it.
Yeah, it reminds me. Have you guys know Nate Bargatze, the comedian? Have we talked about
Oh,
this?
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's
He's
Classic.
great.
But he's got a
Hilarious.
podcast. I didn't know. Yeah, called Nateland. If you guys haven't heard it, you got to check it out. It's basically a bro chat, but they're comedians, so they have nothing
Much funnier.
like, of any significance. Yeah, it's way funnier, and not a whole lot gets said of any value, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
as us.
Anyway, yeah, they pork away their intros all the time. It's great.
I like that.
Yeah. So here we go. I'm not doing it though. I refuse. So
No, that's
think
you. That was, yeah, that's that. You have to, right?
I can't plug Nateland without. Maybe they'll give us a little kickback if we reach
There
out
you
to
go.
them.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so here we are. Rain, you got my intro is going to be introducing Rain, who will give us the official intro. So it's good to see. It's been a while, a couple of months. So Rain, tell us what we're doing here.
Yeah, that was smooth, man. That was really smooth. Well, I'm coming from Singapore. I mean, look at the technology. We're just all over the world. It has been. It's been like 2 months. But kicking off, we got Kodiak Shack, Afterburn Podcast coming together. We're going to solve the world's problems. We're going to document it. But
This time for real.
I mean, it's been a busy summer. Bender, you were like flying all over the Pacific or getting stuck somewhere, I think. You had a big TDY, right? Can you tell me? I want to hear about it. Flash said there were a lot of shenanigans with you and your movement to wherever you were going. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, I got left behind. I got hubcapped. It was pretty bad. I don't know if you've ever been TDY as a single fighter pilot, like just one fighter pilot TDY. It's miserable. Apparently, we're social
bros.
creatures. So, yeah, there were no bros. It started really strong. So, we left on a Monday, 6 ship with some slick. So, Salt Lake City guard guys hooked us up. But instead of going, we were going to go, it makes sense. Like, the fastest way to get to Guam is like, fly west. So, Hawaii and then to Guam. They're like, nah, let's fly to Alaska and then to Guam. So,
Great
we ended
circle.
up. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, something like that. So getting to Alaska was fine. Nothing really broke. It does make the AOS from Alaska to Guam like 11 and a half hours though. So that's painful. But we got there so we had a 3-day kind of layover, whatever, waiting for the tankers. So those 3 days were awesome. It was 6 of us. We were just raging. The first night was pretty epic. We went to Denali, ran a river. Like it was a good time. And then the day we showed up for our AOS and the air stairs at Fairbanks International drove itself into the nose of the KC-10. So they're like, "Oh, you have no more tanker." So we just went back to our hotel. So we got to stay an extra 4 days. So we were a week into the TDY and the jets are stuck in Alaska. And then we finally get the next wave of tankers. And as we're taking the runway, I'm number 4 and we're cleared for takeoff or whatever. And then I get one of my fans, I get a cool fail. We call them ICAW, but anyway, I can't blast with that. So we cancel takeoff clearance. I run back to Chalks, hoping that I can just cold iron, which is just restarting the jet and cranking it back up, but it ends up being hard broke. So they're like, "We'll see you, Bender." And so all 5 of them blast with the tankers, and then I'm just stuck in freaking Eielson. And I don't know, there's rules against single ship AOSs, so the PK of me getting out of there was pretty low. So it was a depressing day.
You always leave like another jet there, like mutual
Yeah.
support. And then the priority of it, if you're a singleton, I don't think you can do it. Or maybe you can
can't.
with a waiver, but
Yeah, I think you can get a waiver, but the game plan is like, oh, we got some Vipers that were trying to go to Korea, so that they eventually we'll just tack you on to the Vipers going to Korea, and then get yourself to Guam from there. But we're not built for that. It's an F-35, and we're fighter pilots. I can fly around my base pretty well and get back, but to fly from Alaska and then find my way somewhere in Japan and then find my way again to Guam, that's a heavy lift. So I was no kidding, in our JTD, so a -1, looking at fuel numbers, and the F-35 engineers are these guys are never gonna look at this. It was one little chart, and it's not very good information. I'm well, I could either be 5,000 pounds heavy, or I could be 5,000 pounds short. who knows what the truth data is. So it was mostly like just launch and see how far you can get, which is what I did. So launched with some Vipers, which turns out I've never flown with the Vipers since flying the F-35. But Vipers are kind of a pit, like the takeoff. Like they were like climbing out, you just see them laboring. Like I was up at 20,000 and they're still like 11,000. Like plus, they're like 3 bag and whatever else they were carrying.
Block 40s,
they were heavy. Yeah, Block 40s also. Anyway, it was a good time. It was Juvettes. It was fun. So anytime you're with other fighter pilots, even if you don't know them, it's a good time. So, and you pop a go pill and it's like a party. Yeah.
That's right.
Plus that, yeah.
The tundra.
Like other voices. Yeah.
There's a bunch of strike eagles that showed up there. You'd have been excited to hang out with them, you know?
Well, that's unproven. We're not sure that's. We have to test that specifically.
Got our strike eagle hate in for the.
Yeah.
What?
AOS
for the bingo.
Eagles. Jeez.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for the
Yeah.
I didn't bring the bingo card up. It's probably a bridge too far on my computer, but that.
Oh yeah.
The bro chat bingo.
The bro chat bingo.
That's good.
You gotta
though.
find
I like
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can
What?
find it.
Did you land in Japan and then have to go from Japan to wherever you were going?
Yeah, so I was doing like gas calculations the whole time, but I was on deck, so it was actually I was having a good time doing it. But I was like, if I can just sneak another couple thousand pounds, I made it to Okinawa, so that's as far as I got. So we split somewhere over the middle of Japan. They went to Korea, and I continued on to Okinawa. And Japanese controllers, I forgot, like they are not athletes as far as
They're
like being able
rigid.
to. So I'm like, if I just cut this off and go direct to this point, like I'm gonna save so much gas. So I like asked for that, and he's like, say again. I asked for like 6 times because he couldn't understand me. Finally, he's like, negative, and then he read off the entire route, which had 35 points on it. As filed, whatever. So I'm like, yeah, I'm like, please, it's like not a different. Anyway, it was. So I forgot about that. So I just shut up and flew my route or whatever. But yeah, I landed in Kadena, and then the maintenance team from Eielson had been like, hey, we got a maintenance team waiting for you in Kadena. And then the AOS guy's like, hey, I got your PPR. I talked to ops. They're all going to be ready for you. And I landed, and Tower's like, where do you want to go? And I'm like, I don't know where to go. Like, where are other fighters around here I could park next to? They're like, oh yeah, you want the Delta ramp. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to the Delta ramp. And I like pull up the Delta ramp, and there's like F-15s and F-22s and F-16s and F-35s and Navy F-35s. There's just like jets everywhere, and they're all pointed in opposite. Like, there's no like rhyme or reason to where everybody is parked. They're all mixed together too. So I like stop there, and I like look, and there's probably 30 ground crews of different airplanes just like looking at me like, what is this guy doing? I didn't know where to go, so I just like drive down this taxiway. Just like staring at everybody, see if anybody like smiles and waves, like, you should park with
Come
me.
over
But
here.
nobody did. Yeah, they're all just like, who's this clown? And every Japanese like little car of, the Japanese whatever maintenance people that are around there, same thing, just like, who is this clown? So I end up just stopping in the middle of this ramp. Like I just give up. I'm like, I have no idea where to go. Call back to tower. I'm like, is there an ops frequency or something I can talk to? And credit to the Falcons or an F-35 squadron up at Eielson. So they are deployed there right now. So they gave me their ops freak. I called the top 3, and he hooked me up. So as soon as I like parked in the spot he gave me, there's like 40 maintainers there. And they're all pissed off that I've just like dropped this jet in the middle of their operations. And then one lieutenant who's awesome. He's got a cooler full of like drinks and like sandwich for me, everything. So they totally hooked me up. So that is an awesome thing about, the fighter pilot culture. Like they were ready, even though they had no idea what was coming. Like they knew exactly what to do. They threw all that stuff in, like picked me up, grabbed my gear, got me a hotel room, and took me out to dinner. Like it was awesome. And then had all my products ready for the next day. Like looked up the ATO stuff because I couldn't do it. Anyway, it was like first class treatment. It was money. So I owe those guys big. But as far as the Hill guys, somehow the message did not get through. Like nobody had any. Where they're like, "Where's the rest of your airplanes?" I'm like, "It's just me." Like, can you do that? I'm like, no, right. I guess like I'm not supposed to.
Am.
Yeah,
here I am.
Surprise.
You just one hop?
Yeah. To Guam after that?
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, you can't one hop to Guam. So
Wow.
it was an ordeal. This could take a long time. Are we going to go through the whole thing? But
all the time.
Yeah.
In the
So
world.
the plan was to go. So I like hustled, and I get to Kadena. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to turn this the next day. So it was like a 10-hour sortie. I'm like, I'll just get quick sleep, and then I'll turn and go to Palau, which is where my squadron was. And Palau's like the dream. Like that's like I'm excited to go to Palau. And then I get a text, of course, like from my commander. She's like, "Hey, maintenance wants you to go to Guam so they can like do some inspections first before you go to plow." And I lost my crap. I'm like, no, like if I go to Guam, I know it's just gonna get stuck there, and everybody else is gonna have a good time at the freaking beach resort in Palau. I'm gonna be stuck at Guam by myself. So I tried to argue that for a couple hours. I ended up losing, and so they made me go to Guam, and so I had to like find a tanker. I didn't do it. Somebody at the AOC did, but they found me a tanker that had some extra gas. So the next morning, I was gonna blast out of Kadena, catch the tanker, and then he was going to land at Guam. So he was just going to drag me back to Guam. But the Japanese ATC at Kadena they wouldn't give me clearance. They wouldn't even like respond to me. So not only
dip clearances, how'd you get all your dip clearances and stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't. So maybe that was the problem. So I was like, I would like my clearance. And they're like, stand by. And it was an hour. I'm like, I need clearance because the tanker's not going to sit there. He can't sit there forever. I'm like, I'm going to miss this tanker. And then who knows what's going to happen. And they're like, they just didn't respond. So I ended up called back to ops. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to take off VFR. Is that allowed in Japan? They're like, no. And I'm like, what can I do? And they're like, okay, we'll fly you on a local stereo, and then you just go due regard once you get above like 10,000 feet. I'm like, sounds good. I don't even know what due regard is, but like, let's go. And so I did. I like 10,000 feet. I'm like, what could, what's the worst that could possibly happen? So I just canceled, went due regard and flew towards where my tanker was supposed to be. Thankfully, he was there.
We won the war. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. I'm like,
power coming through.
Yeah. Like, if I get violated, is anybody going to get that email? I don't think anybody's going to get the email. Nobody knows who I am. I don't even have a clearance. So
yeah, they probably sent it to Okinawa. One of your F-35s did this. None of ours did.
Like, no, it was an F-16. It was fine.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's wild. This is just single ship. Island hopping.
Just single ship, yeah. And then when I got to freaking Guam, I split from the tanker, and then they're like, then as soon as I get within radio contact of Guam approach, they're like, extreme precipitation, like 20 miles wide over the island. I'm like, well, I can't fly into that. And they're like, lightning within 5 miles of Anderson. And we're not allowed to fly within 25 miles of lightning.
Still?
Because we're special, and we weren't made very well. Yeah.
Well,
that's the good. No. That is the fix. Within 25 is like,
just stiff
the
arm
best it gets. Yeah. If you don't have the right modifications, I think it's even farther than 25.
Bender,
so I had to turn around, I had to turn around, call the tanker off his approach, and set up a refueling, orbit. Anyway, it was like wild. So
don't you have to have some kind of? I know you have to have a fuel reserve for Altravs. Secondary diverts because it's like an island, or you got to carry an hour of gas. There's a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah,
here.
you have to with AOSs. You have to have an hour of gas at your destination, but that's not enough gas to go to another island. So
maybe like Saipan.
Well, actually, you can get to Saipan and Tinian. Yeah, so I probably could have gone to them, but they all had. Well, I'm not sure if they had thunderstorms, but dropping a jet into Tinian's not ideal.
It's not the play.
Yeah, I don't know what happens when you do that, but I don't think I'd have gotten out of there. Maybe it'd have been nicer than Guam, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I got the gas. I did. They didn't have an ILS, so I had to shoot a freaking TACAN down to mins, and it was the most mins I've ever. It was like, in the simulator, we're going like down to mins minus 50, like just see what happens. Like that's what I was like. I pushed the power up, and I saw like a quick little rabbit light, and I'm like, that's a runway. But I had like on a TACAN, they have 2 runways. Like I don't know if it's the left one or the right one, but like runway environment, that's like I've been IRC. I know I can continue down. So I landed, and then the poor KC-135 behind me that had hooked me up goes missed approach, and who knows where he ended up. That poor guy, just like, he has to go. Like, sorry, buddy. Yeah, it was a miserable day, and I did get stuck in Guam, so I never made it to freaking Palau. But I saw the pictures, and it looked pretty nice.
I've heard it is nice. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, so many rules that are like, this is hard and fast. Like you must have X, Y, and Z. You didn't have any of them. And turns out you made it across the Pacific. That is the most ace thing I've ever heard of.
Yes. Well, I think I followed all the rules. For the record,
Yeah,
I followed all the rules.
Yeah, you had an Altrav. You had dip clearance.
Yeah, the Altrav thing. Well, that's what due regard. I'm pretty sure due regard just means, I'm going to do my thing, and I take responsibility for not hitting anybody.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it
Effectively.
is.
Yeah.
I think
like,
there are
know.
rules, but I don't know what they are.
Sounds good. That weather, man. I mean, growing up in
me.
Misawa.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I was saying the due regard just not hit anyone. Like it's gonna be me, fat, dumb, and happy, putting food in the oven back there, going over Guam.
That is true. I think I'd see a 777 probably from
Maybe
even visually, but who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that reminded me of breaking out or landing at Mins. One of those like you hit your Mins and it's like, I'm deciding. There's the runway. That's one of our buddies at Misawa. It was like, so for everybody who doesn't fly in Misawa, I think everywhere, they have like categories of how low you can fly. Like, hey, you can't fly lower than 500 feet or 300 feet above the ground. And then in Misawa, I think it was like, if you shot the PAR, which is effectively a verbal approach where they're like, turn right, turn left, descend, climb, you could fly down to 100 feet and all you needed was a quarter-mile visibility. So, yeah, flying at 165 knots, like so fast. So there were 4 guys on this approach. They weren't shooting the PAR. They were shooting an ILS. So it's like, takes you down to 300 feet, 200 some feet. And 1, 2, and 3 are all instructor pilots who can fly down all the way to like 200 feet. 4 is a like 501 guy. And
no chance.
Yeah. And I'm in the tower. So when you're flying at like an active duty base, you have one guy sitting in the tower and he's the supervisor of flying. And he's like the ops group's representative of the flying program. What's happening? You're the eyes and ears. And so I can barely see the runway. And I see like one jet roll out, a second jet roll out, a third jet roll out, and the fourth jet roll out. And I was like, whew, that's aggressive. And the phone, the second I see the fourth aircraft, the phone starts ringing. And it's the group commander who also just saw the fourth aircraft. And he's like, who just landed? And I was like, I'm not sure, sir. He's like, I know you know who just landed. Tell me who number 4 was. And I was like, I think it was. And he was so mad because he knew that dude was like, I'm not going to be the one of 4 guys who diverts like, it was far to Yokota. It was like 400 miles or something. Like it was not a short like hop over to Yokota, but turns out, it was a ragged bottom. He just like
he
found a
the
sucker
pocket.
hole and
found it. There's a pocket every now and then. I mean, a solid number 3 there, not to kick him out.
So you can't get away with that in
make sure he lands.
Airliner world, right?
Yeah. Ooh. You can land, without ever seeing the runway. How crazy is that?
Oh, Rain, we got you choppy. Still there?
Yeah, maybe not. I hear you guys.
No. So I did Bender. I just dropped an episode with Drago and my buddy Rowdy, and we could not hear Drago talk. I don't know if Rain's talking now, but we could not hear Drago talk while we were recording. There you are.
The whole
Rain,
thing?
I lost you for a minute.
I can hear you guys, so
Yeah, he's back.
We have to have some kind of technical glitch, right?
Happening again.
This is going to be difficult to edit. Thankfully, it's not my job to do that.
Yeah,
so.
that's why you do the intros.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we totally lost him.
He's coming back. But either way, so Drago would start talking, and then halfway through this like really good statement he's making, it'd be like... And so finally, Rowdy and I are like, hey, man, we can't hear you. Turns out the recording got it perfectly. Just like you could hear him super clear. And so Rowdy and I seem like weirdos because we're like, hey, we can't hear you, man. And Drago's like in the middle of this very useful statement. It's like, well, this is awkward.
That's awesome. Can you just like selectively edit me out, like my audio feed? Like when you're editing these things, you can just be like, mute Bender.
Yep. Yeah, I can do that. And depending on how aggressive the background noise is, you can like edit out you can pick audio to edit out and stuff. There he is. Rain's back.
The good news, what I've learned, because we won't edit this out, is it just keeps recording. So
yes,
I know.
You don't even need me.
That happened on one episode. Yeah, I just disappeared and came back, and yeah. Worked out great.
Yeah. I can hear you guys talking, so just keep talking if I disappear, and I'll
Yeah, but
I'll
it
catch
sounded
up
like
later.
maybe you were telling a story.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Well, we're talking about I was saying what if solid number 3 not
Yeah.
to kick number 4 out to make sure number 4 landed, or what is solid number 3 to not kick
That's
number
right.
4 out? So
No
they
one
all
talked
just,
about where
you
they
know.
broke out until
Yeah.
Bender. I think you were in that flight.
I was gonna say like
Yeah.
I wasn't number 3, right? Like
Yeah, well,
doesn't sound like me. I don't know.
but see, that's the same. So if anybody doesn't know, Misawa just has such bad weather. I mean, the weather is, I don't know, it's not even surprisingly bad. It is just consistently bad weather. And there was a standard jets break while you're in Alaska, and 2 people are flying home, and they are like 2 hours out. And the same OG, I'm in the tower again for some reason. The OG calls me and he's like, hey, the AOS, whatever their call sign was, is a couple hours out. They will not shoot the approach because the weather was so bad. I'm sitting in the tower and I cannot see the infield grass between me and the runway, which is on the other side of the infield grass, like less than a quarter mile vis. And he's like, do not let them even start the approach. Because the whole get out of jail free was like, if I've commenced a portion of the approach, I can at least try the approach, even if the weather's below my mins. And then, somehow you just broke out at your mins. And so he's like, don't let him start the approach. Like, don't even entertain it. So they call me on the radio like 30 minutes later. And they're like, dude, I don't want to talk about weather. We're going to be on the approach soon. And I was like, he was like, yeah, legitimately. I was
Don't
like,
tell me what the weather
these
is.
radios are recorded, by the way. But like, I was like, the OG has already called and said he will not let you shoot to not let you shoot the approach. And so they flew from Eielson all the way to Yokota, and he was not a fan. Like they were, granted, like they spent weeks trying to get those jets over to Misawa just to divert to Yokota for probably a few more days.
Brutal.
Suboptimal.
Who is that?
That was
This we don't name
Haas.
drop. Haas.
Yeah,
Okay.
Haas and Kazi, I think, were the 2 that were flying it, and yeah, he
That's
was,
funny.
which rightfully so. But yeah, he was not pumped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled. Oh yeah,
Terrible.
just
That sounds
Bender.
terrible.
I was realizing while you told that story. So the Air National Guard normally has their own iron, has their own bases, all those kind of things. The reserve, a lot of times, will like integrate with an active duty base. Your TDY seems very active duty, like that, hopping around, doing all those things. That was very. That does not sound like chill, like reserves lifestyle. The Palau part did.
Yeah.
But you never actually
most of them were
experienced-
there. Yeah.
Yeah. I did
Yes,
find
they all
the
enjoyed it.
bingo though.
Well, but
Oh, nice.
Bender's like the bro in there. Bender's like the one each reservist, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah. How
it
many
was a-
how many reservists were on that?
No, it was all reservists. So it was supposed to be. Flash would have to tell
Oh,
the drama of the whole thing, but it was supposed to be all reservists. 18. I shouldn't talk numbers, probably, but it's fine. It didn't end up happening. Certain amount of jets were supposed to go, all reservists. So it was like all hands on deck. Plus, we were going to bring some active duty to make sure we could have enough pilots. And then it was like, no, let's have it be active duty led with reservists, filling in like a third of the jets. And then it was turned off, and then it was just take the 6 jets and only reservists. Anyway, so it ended up 6 jets, only reservists. But all the flail and all that stuff that happened from the active duty getting involved, that still lingered. So that was that's I think is why we went to Alaska and why I ended up, because the active duty maintenance is who supported us. I think anyway, that's how I ended up in Guam. I'm pretty sure because a reserve maintainer. I mean, they're gonna be in Palau with everybody else. Like they're not looking to chill in Guam. Anyway, so. Yeah, it was all reservist pilots. It was actually I think they had a great time. The exercise part was rough, making it all kind of happen. But as far as the location and all that, it was pretty good. Not bad. It's not Singapore, but pretty close.
yeah. Well, Yeah. I mean, yeah, literally
It was
and
warm.
figuratively. Warm.
Humid.
Warm.
Plus, Guam had just had their typhoon, so it was like a disaster area.
Oh,
I mean, it's
man.
like looking at Florida after a hurricane. Like all the trees. Well, none of the palm trees had palms anymore, so it was just like bare trees across the entire island. And then I got there because I was 2 weeks delayed. At least my hotel had like figured out their power and flooding, so there's consistent power. But there was like power had been out for days and days, so like mold was growing in certain parts of the hotel, like everywhere. I mean, it was a mess generally.
Well, it sounds like maybe it worked
Yeah.
out for you then. You know?
Yeah.
And it could have been the Middle East.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
all in all,
Which,
worst
yeah.
places to
I thought the Middle East was shutting down.
get stuck.
It's not shutting down. Like, what the heck? It
Promises
just
were
keeps-
made.
It just keeps
Yeah.
on going. It just keeps on going.
I'm
Yeah, I
not
don't know
going
why.
there.
Promises were made.
I don't know. I wonder. I guarantee they're not doing much. Last person I talked to that was out there, they said they're not doing much. They are chilling, but
But they're
not
there.
in Palau.
Not chilling. That
No.
can't happen.
They're sweltering.
They are sweltering. They're dying.
Yeah, that's not my climate. I'm not the 115 guy. I'm not the 95% humidity. I'm the Eielson where the
Yeah.
sun doesn't set and it's like 75 and that's pretty chill.
Yeah. You get excited about the book Twilight. You're like, yeah, these are my
It's
people.
cold up there.
Yeah. yeah. The winters in Eielson, not for me. I'm be a snowbird in that way.
Yeah, I feel like Elmendorf might be a little more of a happy medium. It still gets cold. Sun doesn't really set in the summertime, right? But it's just a
Yeah.
little bit further south.
Which
which
do
is
you
more
hop through
doable.
there very often
just
with
me.
your job?
I go through there a good bit. I mean, I like Anchorage. It's super nice, especially in the summertime. A little methy, but
True.
what city's not methy
It
these
is
days?
very methy.
You gotta watch out when you're walking down the street. But yeah, that's kind of sad. And, just watch out. Well, like going to Honolulu, Waikiki, like that's pretty methy.
Oh.
Walking on the beach, like I've heard like states like ship people to Hawaii because it's like
Yeah, they
warm.
can survive.
Homeless people. I don't know if that's true or not.
Wands are
Waikiki's a
open.
wild ride at night. I mean, that place, the cops
Yeah.
are everywhere. They are
Yeah.
out and
Buckle
about.
up.
Yeah.
Well, meth
Eh.
is problematic.
Yeah, they need that tourist money. You can't have. You can't have your tourists getting shanked. So
That was
you need the
Klamath
cops
Falls.
out there.
That was pretty methy
Cover 'em.
too. I thought it wouldn't get any worse coming from New Mexico. I mean, that's like Breaking Bad was like filmed out there. But yeah, it was like, oh, sure enough, Firebirds. It's like a grocery store, not the spot. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Unless you
exactly.
want meth,
Yeah, I guess it
apparently.
depends on what you're in the market for.
Klamath is getting F-35s,
They
right?
are.
They were on the
Wow.
list to get F-35s.
Yeah, it's,
So-
I mean,
Speaking of which, Fresno might be. Did you hear about the drama at
No.
Fort Worth? I don't
Are-
know what's appropriate for broke chats and what's not, but
it's all
there might be some reshuffling of where the F-35s are going. Let's just say that.
Ew. Well, it turns
Yeah.
out the C model is coming apart at the seams, so it could use a replacement sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's the EX was on the docket, and then now it may change as the plan has changed multiple times. So it's not like there's been a one plan. But yeah, I could see the F-35. I mean, they could use me in the 35. You know what I mean? Like they're like, let's put the 35 in Fresno specifically for Vader to get some 5th gen love, because
Yeah.
I could use some stealth because my RCS in my new airplane is rather large. So, yep.
Yes.
And,
Flying a tennis court.
The other day, oh man, so the other day, this is a very weird thing. Bender, I don't know if you've experienced this. So I was flying BFM, just getting after it, doing loaded maneuvering. So like stalling out the airplane and then stomping on the rudders and just like seeing what happens. And I'm like winning. And I was like, oh, sick. Here we go. And I'm getting close to the floor. And so like I go to take my foot off the rudder and then unload a little bit to break the stall so the plane starts to fly again because I'm approaching the simulated ground. And I don't break the stall, and the plane's not flying anymore. And I was like, oh, okay, well, we're like 9,000 feet with average terrain like 4,000 feet. So I'm like at the 5,000 foot, and I like unload a little more, and the jet's not like flying out of it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, the plane's not flying. What do we do when the plane's not flying? So classic max relax roll. And, but yeah, I like unload and finally get flying airspeed and fly away after I kill myself on the simulated floor. And, I was like, well, that's a new one. I don't know. Have you seen that in the 35 doing, I don't know, high alpha stuff?
Yeah, I've sunk through the floor, but no, it won't let you. I mean,
yeah,
you can't high alpha it to a stall, but it just gets back as soon as you let go of that button. F-35 it's so gentlemanly. I mean, I knew it was, but it's just put me to sleep in the last like 3 years. Like when I was doing the AOS with the Viper, like they're all like, fuel check. I forgot all of this, but like they got to spin like 4 needles and do some math. I can't remember how to do it, but they're like whatever 11-7, whatever, like 4 numbers, like feeding centerline dry. And one's like, oh, I got right tank slow to feed. And one's like, left tank, like trap, like 2,000 pounds of trap fuel. Meanwhile, like the F-35 fuel page doesn't even want you to know what's going on. It's like, okay, I'll show you some numbers. There's nothing you can do about them. You can't like bounce any fuel tanks. Like there's no options. So the F-35 is just like, I got it. So I'm just like, I got 11-7, everybody. And I don't know what's feeding and what's not. It's just going to take care of it for me. Anyway, you got to work so hard in the F-16 for everything you got. Like you were saying, like you got to fuse all the sensors yourself. You got to like calculate your gas, figure out how to balance it all.
Yeah. External gas tanks, where you had more gas internal than they had with 3 external gas tanks.
Yeah, I did. It was great.
That's crazy. Would you get gas faster than them?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I think it can take gas, so to speak, faster. So I think the pump rate can be higher out of the tankers. Plus, one of them, I won't say any names. I doubt they listen to this, but one of them fell off the boom and we had 13 ARs or 12. So it was a lot of ARs. And he was off the boom at least 2 times per AR, to the point where the flight lead's like, look, dude, we're all going to miss our MRB fuel because you can't get gas. Like, this has got to stop. He's already like 34 6-packs into this thing. Anyway, it was pretty funny, pretty brutal.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy. I've been that guy before.
I think we've all been that guy. I mean, my call sign is kind of that guy a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually you get one of them, right? Like you get like one AOS movement to be that guy, but really like half of one AOS movement to be that guy.
Yeah, you figure it out after like 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, at first you have no idea what you're doing, nor does the person who like taught you. You're just kind of like, oh, this is my sight picture in the Viper. That's about right.
That's in the C model. I'm still just kind of like figuring it out, just like out there vibing, like, yeah, that's good enough.
You gotta like
no, yeah, they talk about
that would
They're
mess
like,
me up.
Your
right?
center,
the guys are saying they're like,
your center mirror is supposed to check like the green apple on the like boom. So everybody, there's like colors where it's like red, yellow, green, yellow, red. For like, so you want to be in the middle where the green is. So you can like use your center mirror, which I always forget about, for the green apple, and then your left mirror, you can actually see your AR port. And they're like, yeah, once you get close, you can like look in the mirror and like see them plug in. And I'm like, why don't I just look at the tanker? It's quite the big indicator on if I'm getting closer or farther. So like you can, depending on the tanker, the right engine is like half cut off by the canopy bow, because we have one of those. So I just kind of like slice that engine in half, and I like look at the indicator lights, and I'm like, we're in the ballpark. And turns out the most difficult part about tanking is staying right of center on the tanker, but not too far right, just a little right. So like you effectively want to put like your nugget in line with the edge of the fuselage of the airplane. So you can't line up on that big yellow strip that goes all the way down the bottom of the tanker. No, not for me. That's where I want to line up my AR door, and I'm going to be right of it. And so that is the thing. Like, I feel, that, what is that flight thing that it's called, like the hand of God or whatever, where it feels like you're always banking or wanting to bank? I do that the entire time I get gas.
Trying to
I just
recenter?
I slowly like want to lean left. And I'm thinking about like putting in clicks of right trim to stop me from cheating left, because that's like the only difficult part. Like, jet flies well. It's just right.
That would be trippy, not lining up on center line, right? Because like everything you do in the world, like you want to line up on center line. And then I would think the mirror, like I would see it, and it's gonna be like an opposite input. Like, oh, I just need to move a little bit to the right, and then
Yeah, that
Yeah,
throw me
now
off.
I'm way too far over.
Oh.
Random, Bender, you'll appreciate this. I haven't released the episode yet, but Bobbitt, he's an F-35B guy I interviewed. I did give him grief for the canopy bow, or on behalf of the United States Air Force, thank him. I've never dealt with that, but I know that's for you. And now Vader's got to be a problem, but
He did it to me.
he didn't really do it to you, Vader. He
Dang
did it to
him.
Bender.
Have you noticed, Bender, that the canopy bow is surprisingly small? Like, out of the cockpit visibility, it's maybe 5% of the entire canopy area. And 90% of the time, it's in the way. You're like, where did that guy go? Oh,
Yeah.
he's behind the canopy bow.
Yeah.
And you're like, how?
There's like
Why
20 to
everything-
30 degrees off your nose is like an important place for fighters.
Weird, yeah.
So they're just like, let's just put a piece of metal 20 to 30 degrees. Like, yeah. Like, thank you for that. Yeah, that's right. Where the tanker, like the perfect spot for me on a KC-135, of course, like the lights are under the canopy bow. It's like, why not?
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do
Appreciate
this
that. Yeah.
when I'm getting
Yeah.
gas. I like
Like,
duck down so I can see under the canopy bow to see the lights.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Piece of crap. Canopy bow.
Hey, thanks. If only they could make a canopy that didn't require to have a seam that brought two pieces of
If that
glass
technology
together.
existed.
Only.
I don't
Maybe.
even. Nah, I say a lot
40
of
years.
wrong things. We need Billy back. In my mind, I'm like, I think it just feels like it was one piece of glass and they just like glued a piece of metal, like just for the fun of it. That's what I think the F-35 is.
Well, they had to do it because of the B model. The
Had
B
to
model
open
needed
forward,
the
right?
ability to have
Yeah.
Yeah.
the ejection. If you need to be able to hit the bird doing 500 knots or whatever. But if they lost the motor at like 75 feet hovering, there wasn't enough time to get the canopy
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, so
they
it
had to
does
go
have
through
the deck cord.
right?
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
but I think it opens forward because it couldn't open back because of the
Oh, the
F-35B.
forward piece.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Again,
Well,
I
yeah,
say a
that's
lot
the
of wrong
lift
things
fan
about the
thing,
F-35.
right?
Yeah, the lift fan sitting
Yeah.
back
Don't
there.
worry. WOMs are open.
WOMs
So-
are totally open.
The
Which-
uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
test pilot
so-
in my squadron now that I'm just like, I am so stupid. Every time I'm around him, like, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. He knows everything
Yeah.
about this airplane.
that's good. He should. He's a test pilot.
That's true. He built it. Well, he tested everything on it.
The other day I was landing and no indication of malfunction, and I touched down, a little extra space between me and the guy landing in front of me, and I step on the brakes and nothing happens. And I was like, and I'm like staring down the burner cans of the dude
Always
stopping in
feel
front of me, and I like step on the brakes and nothing still happens. Luckily, I remembered where the anti-skid switch was, and this jet has a pulsar option, which is like 50-50 on off. So it's just like a poor man's anti-skid. Like, you can't skid them because it just like stops your impulse every 50% of the time. So that like slows me down, and I was like, hey, look at that, fun. So yeah, that was the landing. Worked out.
Jeez.
I've had a couple of those. Not where you want to be in life. It's an uncomfortable feeling when you apply brakes
Mm-hmm.
and then nothing happens. I argue it's a
I
spot you
concur.
don't want to be in life. And so the whole reduced runway separation. This is something because that AIB just came out with the F-35. See, I always, if it wasn't like a large force exercise or multiple formations coming back to the pattern, call me a wimp, but like I never like landed 3,000 feet behind someone. I was like, like 4,500, 6,000. Like, it's going to be fine. Like, we're not recovering 60 jets. Now, if we're recovering 60 jets, all right, be a champion. But I'm like, why do I need to buy this extra risk? Sounds like that might have been a little factor with that 35 that
little
crashed,
bobble.
a little verbal bobble.
So
I don't know
I
about
didn't
it.
know the report had come out. Yeah.
Yeah, it came out last week. Wake
Yeah.
turbulence, and then the jet just doing whatever it decided to do, and then I'm the
like,
captain now.
Math,
but
math,
we don't need you.
out of control.
But it really needed him.
Why did you do all that math? Like, stop it.
Just keep doing what
There
you're
should
doing.
be an
Just keep
overriding
flying. What are
math
you doing
equation.
math?
It's like fly level. Like, why isn't that the safety feature? Yeah.
Don't do
Yeah,
anything.
I never
Yeah,
got
it'll be
trained in
fine.
the sum of all my inputs equals like straight and level flight. It's like just like do less, do less. But that's why sometimes I see stuff like that, and I'm like, the computer's got a long way to go before they start taking over stuff. Like the whole Chat GBTs or like Mid Journey, which Rain, I assume you've used that. I think you've said you've used that too. And yeah, they're like the AI things. You like ask them to make stuff or do something, and you're like, all right, we got a couple years, so yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite there.
We're good.
Pretty good. Pretty good. So it's very helpful sometimes, but
Our
I like
kids are
zooming.
screwed, but we're
Yeah,
pretty
always.
good. Like we're nailing it.
Yeah. I like zooming in on AI pictures because the closer you look, the more weird things look. I saw a picture, it was like a house. It was like this really cool house with like a whole wall of windows. And then you like zoom in on some like fern or some plant, but the plant's like leaf is going through the window, and it's like on both sides of the window in the picture. And you're like, and the more you like pick around, the AI is like, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up here, man. Like, what do you want from me?
Maybe it's just like that's what you're gonna see in the future.
or
Yeah.
Like,
or
just you wait for it. We got plants that go through.
yeah,
windows.
that's the future. Or it's lulling. It's yeah. I'll say it's like lulling us to sleep. It's like this comfort. Like, yeah, we're not smart enough to like take over the world. And it's just gonna be like boom. It flips the switch, and then we're killing each other, or like
Birthday cards.
machines are just
Right?
Birthday
rolling
cards.
around.
Birthday card. Yeah.
Yeah, greeting cards.
Birthday cards.
They're
man.
they're gonna get
Oh,
you.
greeting
Birthday
cards. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I
right.
thought you had Mother's Day
Rain,
cards.
I saw you had the girl from what was she, the Loadmaster
Voodoo.
from?
Yeah. No, she's a pilot.
Oh, she's a
Patch.
pilot? Yeah. That was
Voodoo.
That was awesome.
Patch. I had Voodoo, and I just did a release with AP, who he was the air mission commander. That was the most recent episode for Out of Afghanistan. That one, and I'm sure you listened to it. Here's the short story of it that I think you guys will appreciate. It was like them leaving Kabul on the last night, and the Taliban had jumped over the fence. They're all blacked out, and he goes, the Taliban's just standing there. You see one of their MVGs, and they're just waving. It's like they knew what the middle finger was. That's what it would be. Basically,
Jeez, that's crazy.
That's surreal. You think about like all the amount of time, effort, blood, spent over there.
Missed opportunity. We should have
That's
been
how it
like, we're all gonna like chaotically leave this day, and then the Taliban comes, and then we just gun them all down. Like, how did we screw that up?
yeah.
Bummer. No, that was the Voodoo
Right.
episode. I haven't listened to APs yet. I'm excited to do it. The Voodoo episode's legit. It's good stuff. So everybody should listen to it. They probably already have.
Yeah. I had a couple more like reach out. I'm trying to get as you guys see, we're having a few internet issues traveling around. Turns out hotel Wi-Fi is not that great. And then I'm on the road for another week, but I've had a couple of different like load masters and stuff reach out. I mean, all these people have these wild stories. Like I can't imagine having been on the ground, the chaos that ensued, just what that was like. And hearing that to me it's pretty profound. So hopefully capture a few more of those stories.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Crazy, it's been 2
Well,
years.
you think,
Someone needs to.
yeah, you fly fighters and you think you're going to be the one like dealing with bad guys and in the thick of it and stuff. And like there are no fighters to be found, just heavies doing what you think seems like a benign task. And then they find themselves in one of the most hardcore settings of all,
And hats off to that community, because I was like, I'm sure you guys have heard it. C-17 community, typically like the answer is to Q3 someone if they do something wrong. So now they're going to have to go get a new check ride, it's a ding on their record, etc. And I think we've talked about it. Like that was seeing those C-17s leave with like 800 people on board. Then AP talks about that crew taking off, like taxiing down the runway, and then seeing, basically half the runway is consumed with Apaches and crowds, and just being champions, being pilots, making a judgment call and taking off and doing that. Because you feel like the culture often reverts back to like CYA and, well, we don't, it's this, and this is not done, or it's against the AFIs, but they all made phenomenal calls and made it happen, I think. So the fact that they got rewarded with DFCs, I think was well earned. Like,
Yeah.
being champions, that's what you get paid for.
Yeah.
Use judgment, make good decisions, make the best decision you can with the information.
Yeah,
you
it's
have,
good stuff.
And I wonder how much they knew it was going to be like that, like when you're going into like troops in contact, or you're going into like going to combat, you kind of have an idea of, all right, it's going to be crazy. But I doubt they expected that was going to be their experience,
Yeah, AP talks about that. They had no idea. I think the first C-17 just got surrounded, and then the second one stayed buttoned up because the first one, they opened up the door and it was just crowds like flooding onto the plane. And like, what do you like? Yeah, like you said, you don't expect that. You like lower the ramp, and it's like maybe one or two loadmasters back there, and it's just chaos. Turns out, like, we hadn't said we're leaving on this date, you probably wouldn't have had all this chaos that ensued. And whatever, here it is. But I'd say hats off to all those C-17 crews who made all that happen, because that was that was a spot I would not want to be in.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah, and,
especially
I want to hear some of the special ops stories too, because I was trying to get a family out, and so I was like reaching out to everybody that I knew that was over there. I finally Mace got me in contact with a guy that had gotten some of her contacts out. Anyway, when I reached him, he was like, dude, the last chuck's gone. Like, you would have, he wasn't being a jerk, but he was like, like 24 hours ago, I could have done something for you. But his stories were like crazy too. They were like landing there and then like going into town with like their little team. It's like driving into town, or like to the address that were given by somebody like me, who's like, hey, this family lives here. Like, I want them out. They go like pick them up, drive them back to the base, and throw them on their airplane, like completely uncontrolled, and like fly them out and then go do it again, go do it again, go do it again. Like, it's crazy what they were doing. Awesome though, like you said, it's just awesome to see like that many athletes just making stuff happen.
Yeah. Probably never hear a lot of those stories, or yeah, none of them. So wild.
Pretty
It's
wild. I've never done
unfortunate that they
anything like
had
that. I want stories like that. Dang it. We've had good stories. Not a whole lot of
Yeah.
saving life story. Well, maybe some saving life.
Yeah, we did some stuff.
Yeah, we did some
you
stuff.
know. Not that kind of stuff. Not that.
No. Well, one time, like when we were in Syria, or not Syria. Well, I guess we were in Jordan. Anyway, those Yazidis, is that the 40,000 people on that mountain?
Yeah,
Watching
Sinjar?
those, same thing. Like,
Mountain?
Sinjar. Watching the heavy dudes go in there, like completely blacked out, 100 feet low levels, to go like airdrop them water and food. Like, that was pretty cool. We
Well, that
protected them a couple nights.
Which I don't know if we already knew that they were there, like the KAOC knew. But one day, like, Crack and I were just flying around, and I was like, look at all these people. And then, like, we had no clue who they were. I was like, gosh, there's so many cars. It was just like on this hillside or mountain, I guess.
Yeah.
And and then like weeks later, it was like, oh, this is a like whole airdrop thing and all that. And I was like, this is crazy. I mean, I'm not saying I found them all and everybody knows about it because of me, but just saying.
But maybe, like, it's hard to know.
I mean, you know me, I didn't tell anybody. I just came back and had some midnight meal and called it a day. But
Well, anything that moved at that point, I was like, oh, that is definitely ISIS. Like, I think that's a woman and her kids. I'm like, it could be, but it looks like possibly ISIS.
it looks like an ISIS woman.
Yeah. It's definitely an ISIS woman.
Oh yeah, but yeah, that was a wild time. I mean, because Rain, you just swapped out.
Yeah, Rain
with
did it
us.
right. Well, you were like hardcore into the Syria part of that, which we caught just a little bit of that, but you guys like leveled towns in a good way.
You guys started out, but I remember Bender. You were like you were showing me around, and we went into the vault, and you just started talking about Kobani and what it was. Because I think you were showing me this targeting pod footage. It was ISIS, and they were doing these fire raid drills. Do you remember this? Like, it was like a stream of maybe like 60 of them walking down the street, and they would just be practicing these air raid drills, and they would just scatter. Someone would say something, they would scatter. and then they'd come back together and they'd walk down the street.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
remember
That
this?
was who was that dropped
Don't
that
say it.
bomb?
Yeah. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, I can't say.
Yeah. We probably
Yeah, I'm gonna
shouldn't
keep
say
his
that
name. Oh yeah, I know. I remember.
One.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won some special awards, but yeah.
But when they came back together for like the fourth time, and then that was like
Cocktail.
timeout for I
Yeah.
don't know, like
Yeah.
2 GPU 38s. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
3854, just a little crowd pleaser.
That is a wild video.
Yeah, just boom. They should not have been ISIS. Yeah,
We should find
Yeah.
that on. Maybe that one's
Yeah,
on
that was-
DVids.
that was the start of it.
Yeah. DVids,
that
you
was-
think it'd be on
Do
there?
you think that's on DVids?
I doubt it.
Yeah, like Sitcom. No, well, no, Sitcom puts all those ones out. I felt like Sitcom put a bunch of those out, like starting like the middle of our deployment. Like that was a pretty regular thing. They would pump them out there. If you go to the Sitcom website, there's some media tab that you can.
Yeah.
It'd probably take you forever to find it, but they sanitize
That one's a
it,
classic. That one needs to go down in history. Need to
Yeah.
preserve that. That might be the single most enemy killed in action with a single like weapons release.
Yeah.
Probably is.
Yeah.
Honest. Well, except for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those.
Yeah, those are pretty big.
Those are-
Did you guys see Oppenheimer? I haven't seen it yet. No.
I've not.
That's
I haven't
wild.
seen it yet.
It's got to be weird, like having created a weapon that destructive, and then it's a lot of destruction.
I
You've
did
seen
go.
Barbie though, right?
Did you guys go to Nagasaki or Hiroshima
No.
when you were in Japan? I did. I went to Hiroshima in May, down for the day to look at it. It's kind of weird. I mean, or eerie is a better way, because they have the building that was essentially ground zero that's still standing, and they have all the rubble, or not all the rubble, but there's a significant amount of rubble that is around the building. It's just like a little time capsule.
That's pretty wild.
That is.
Yeah, Iwakuni I think is pretty close.
Yeah.
Oh, so we've been to Iwakuni, but never to Hiroshima.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a day trip. I mean, I wouldn't go back unless someone really wanted to
yeah. I
go.
think
But
it's
it was
important to see
just
stuff
you
like
can
that.
appreciate obviously
Yeah,
the gravity of.
it's like going to concentration
What
camps
occurred
in
there,
Europe.
you know?
It's heavy, and it's not
Yeah.
pleasant by any means, but it's important to recognize what happens.
It's crazy that how, I don't know, like we all went to like combat, and we fly around and there's no good guys around and everything's via video and all that. And then you look at World War II and Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, like all that, where it was like legit ground game, and how destructive it was versus like I dropped a 54 on a like abandoned vehicle. Sick. Like it's just a very different experience they had.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like World War II. You're going city by. I mean, leveling cities. Yeah, just a different fight. I'll say Kobani. I mean, that we went block by block. I mean, over in the U.S. and the Allies over the course of a year or so.
Yeah, I'm not sure
leveling that
Kobani
city.
is.
I wonder what that looks like these days.
Not sure that's around
Probably not.
anymore. Probably not. One of my
There's one concrete plant that was like out to the southeast. I don't know if you guys remember. It's a huge concrete plant,
they're gonna need it.
and I just saw about like 8 months ago that company. I think it's a French company. Got a huge fine by the U.S. Department of Justice because they were paying off ISIS to keep the plant open. Which I'm like, why would you keep that plant open, or like, what is the need there other than the rebuilding
Huh.
phase? But it's a massive plant.
So you didn't
I won't say
bomb
its
that
name
thing,
because I
huh?
don't want to get sued. No, we didn't touch that. But they would be in and around like towards I would say maybe December or January timeframe. I'm probably messing that up, but it's moved from west to east in the city and then further south, like just migrating over the course of time, which was closer to that. So occasionally there'd be some activity that would occur around there, but you wouldn't do anything, at least that I'm aware of, around or in the concrete plant. I think that thing's probably still standing. There's a building called like the Under Armour building. It looked like an Under Armour logo. I don't know how many bombs like Vipers put into that, but I mean, I watched the B1 one day put in like
Jeez.
16 GBU 31s into it. phenomenal construction. Built very
Turns out that
sturdy.
logo
concrete
is
plant.
Just
like
not going anywhere.
The
Most
well, that's
indestructible.
what that was the comical thing. Like I was there, my last sortie on that first deployment, some night, and it was just crazy. Like this building it was like the concrete plant or something similar. Like it was, think like the biggest hospital building, 3-story buildings, like 10-story buildings, 3-story buildings, just a huge compound. And it's like 2 F-16s with like 4 like 500-pound bombs each. And they're like, we want to level this building. What do you guys think? And we were like, I don't know. Call somebody else. Like we weren't going to tell them no, but we were like,
we're gonna give it
we
our
got the
best
bombs
shot.
for you. Like we just
Right.
laughed to each other and we're like, oh yeah, we can help you out. We got you. But you're like, you don't. Okay, well, whatever. But
Yeah,
I'm gonna
the-
drop
Not gonna
them
do
because
anything.
no reason to take them home.
Yeah, don't want to bring them home. We weaponeer 39s all the time. Obviously, that's our seed weapon or whatever. It
Yeah.
cracks me up. And maybe it'll probably work. I'm sure it'll work. But we're like, okay, we're just going to launch 2 of these things at this critical node and it'll be gone. But I've seen I've seen GBU-12s shack the turret of a T-70 tank or whatever, go off high order, and then the tank is just like one of our buddies put one on in Iraq or whatever, and the tank is just a tank. It's like still there. I'm like, I'm not sure 2 GBU-39s are going to do anything to anybody, like, to be completely honest. Like,
Yeah.
Well, have you, like, I would say my second to last sortie, I was dropping 38s. The DO, he was dropping all 39s. And there's like 2 separate facilities. So we're separated. So like we went there and they're separated like 4 or 5 miles. So like I went off, did my attack, he did his attack. But like watching, I dropped and I came back and I filmed his. The overpressure from those 39s, and maybe it was just the way that it's probably the way that building was built. I mean, the roofs went off the building, tires were going everywhere. Probably just packed full of explosives.
Yeah, maybe.
But
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not the smartest
Cool little
guy
weapon.
around to comment
I don't
on
know.
how weapons work, but the times I'm like, yes, this is gonna be awesome, and it like blows up, and I'm like, dang it, that looks like a truck still. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? I want no pieces left. Like, I've seen the
Womp
movies;
womp.
they're supposed to be like nothing except for a hubcap just rolling down the street or whatever.
Well, that was like our DO. He got we were supposed to drop, and it was like this tractor trailer hauling a Humvee, and we were gonna drop on it while it was like going down the highway, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be some mayhem. And then they're like, wait a second, we're gonna see if they go to some unknown weapons cache, and it's like, yeah, there's always some unknown. Turns out he parks in a neighborhood, so they're like, bombs are off, no more bombs. So it's like the darkest night. And the DO he's like, they clear him to strafe. He hits it with one bullet. Literally, you see all the bullets hit the road, and then you just see one part of the tractor trailer brighter than the rest of it. And you're like, nailed it. One bullet. Sure enough, like 45 minutes later, that one hotspot is now a larger hotspot. And whatever it hit caught on fire. So like 2 hours later, the entire tractor trailer is this massive inferno. And I was like, I've weapons effects achieved. Like you got them.
That's perfect.
BDA, one tractor trailer truck destroyed. Manners
And terrain denial on the road with the rest of the bullets.
Gosh.
Yeah. The whole terrain denial. Dropping GBU 54s on a road.
Yes,
You're like, aren't they just going to drive around that?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. But
There's no way to win
Alright.
at dropping
We
on
drop.
terrain denial. Because if you miss the center point of the road, it's like you're the guy who didn't even hit a road, and you're like, it is circular error percentage of the bomb.
Yeah.
It's gonna miss a little, but yeah, that was class. I dropped one of those. I was like, I cannot miss. Like this is more high stakes than any other bomb, because if I miss a road in the middle of the desert, I'm gonna look like a fool.
Yeah, that's like the
Yeah,
biggest fear of all.
Can't go
fire
back.
guys,
You
is
can't-
just looking dumb in front of everybody else. I'll get
That's
shot
right.
at, like, whatever. Shoot your SA-20 on me. That's totally fine.
yeah,
Maybe I get shot down, maybe I don't. But I do not want to miss with this bomb. Like,
yeah.
that is worse than death.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to sound good on the radio too. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like if you lost your motor, lost your wing, we're gonna die. I mean, that last radio call
Yep.
better make you sound really
Mhm.
cool, because that's gonna be played back.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna hear you and judge you
It's true.
based on that radio
It's all
call.
you'll be
missed,
remembered for.
I missed an entire island once in our first
Yeah.
TDI to Guam. You remember that? I don't know. I kind of tried to keep the story kind of quiet, but I had 2 Mark 84s. I'm like, this is, and everybody's like, oh, you get the 284s. This is gonna be sick. And I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. But I had the only drops I'd done for the past like year, because at B course you do just like GB12 stuff. We're like dive glides. So there's this little target island in the middle of the Pacific, and you're only supposed to. Anyway, they try to protect most of it, which doesn't make sense, but you can hit a certain spot of it. So we're like pappy peeling so we like circle it, and then we're like, okay, let's go, like green them up, and we dive down. And my flight lead drops his, and it's like he shacks or whatever. And then I just go into a dive glide mentality or whatever. So I pull up the dive glide, like toss stuff, hammer down. And these are 84, so they're obviously not going to do what LGBs do. And then I start my pull up or whatever, and I just sling these things. Then I go bump bump. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. And I'm like, something does not feel right now. But I like get my nose high, like tip over to like watch what happens, and then just off the island, these 2 massive, like 10,000 foot geysers on the beach, just like boosh, like turtles and whales and dolphins are flying. I'm like, I just missed an entire island with the 2 best bombs this jet can drop. Like
It's a narrow island.
it's a narrow island.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
horizontal.
Narrow
That
island.
story that well, you couldn't even hit an island with 2 bombs. I'm like,
Yeah.
gosh,
Well,
it
it turns
one
out
time.
that was a trend. We had the next time we went,
Actually, we missed
we
it
had
a lot. Yeah.
one of the IPs in the squadrons, but he had GBU-10s. He dropped 2 GBU-10s, and the one no impact area was these caves. And it was like it was the target. He shacks the caves. And it starts out as like, it's these islands with these like overhangs that these like, I don't know, endangered birds or something live in. And he drops. And then after the explosion, you can just see, instead of these like overhangs, it's just this opening now. And you could see this entire new section of the island. And you're like, oh, that's so bad. Best part was combat camera was in his back seat.
That's right.
Yeah, too good.
Oh, that's amazing.
All right, well, I gotta get out.